Back everyone to the program. We still have our guest who is still in the studio, but first here are some of your stories in brief. And we begin in Benue State. The government, they have given a 7-day ultimatum to Ado Traditional Council in the state to fish out those allegedly responsible for the killing of 4 persons from Ebonyi State. The killing is said to be a fallout of the protracted boundary dispute between Adila community in Benue State and Mbo in Ebonyi State. For his second term in office, the letter for his 10-year extension was read during plenary in the Senate on Thursday. We still have our guests in the studio taking a look at some of the legal issues. The legal practitioner, Evan Sufeli, thank you so much for hanging on. So let's quickly, finally also, get your thoughts on today. Court of Appeal expected to deliver judgment and the various appeals filed by Battle Chief Justice Walter Onoge. What are your expectations today's sitting?
Well, before I go to the expectation, because so many persons thought that today is going to be the Court of Appeal will be looking at the judgment, the conviction judgment of Onoge, but that's not the case really. There are 6 appeals. Okay, the last 2 is the no case submission that the CCT ruled against, and the last is the judgment for which Onoge was convicted. But the ones that is going to be the judgment is going to be delivered today has to do with the first 4. Okay, where you have where the appellant is challenging the validity, okay, of the CCT to prefer a charge, okay, to hear the charge preferred against Onoge. That's 1. 2, the decision of the Federal High Court and the National Industrial Court, asking the CCT to stop the trial, okay. Then the 3rd one has to do with the ex parte order, which was procured. There was no sign of no name of any lawyer who moved the motion and all ancillary issues that surrounds it. So you have all that before the court today. So the expectation is you cannot really forecast and say this is how it's going to go, okay, until the judgment is delivered today. But one of the most important things we need to know is that if you look at the laws itself, you will find out that the due process was not really followed. When you look at the Constitution, when you look at the provision of paragraph 18 of the 5th schedule of the 1999 Constitution, and the provision upon the powers of the CCT and what it can do and what it can't do. Here there is overlap.
It's also interesting you mentioned that, because some lawyers also disagree with you.
Of course,
with your point of view.
Lawyers cannot come to unity when it comes to legal issues, because most of the time all lawyers are from different backgrounds, and then we study the same law but we see it differently, possibly because of our sentiments, our leanings and all that, and our belief system. So but the most important thing is that when we subject our argument to the apex court, the apex court will now give its interpretation
of all the arguments.
The process. Yeah, so that is exactly how.
We'd like to thank you so much, legal practitioner Evan Sufeli, for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Channels Television still monitoring the aftermath of the Inspector General of Police's visit to the Senate, where he promised to investigate the alleged harassment of women by some police officers in the nation's capital, Abuja. Well, today, rights groups and activists they stormed the streets of Abuja to protest what they describe as incessant harassment of women in the city. The civil society organization's protest is against the backdrop what they call violation of women's rights and arbitrary arrest of women in nightclubs, accusing them of prostitution. They believe that there is no proof the arrested women were prostitutes, and if they were, that their rights were not read to them. And they've also asked why only women being arrested, why not the men with them? Our correspondent is live for us in Abuja, Kayla Megwa.
Hi, Millicent. It's been a pretty disappointing day But the protesters this morning, took off this morning from right behind me here at the Eagle Square, and it was made up of women lawyers, human rights organizations, civil society organizations, basically. And they took the protest to the FCT minister. Now, this protest today is the second protest, and they say second in a line of so many other protests they say will be coming up shortly. It's basically about the arrests that happened at various nightclubs in the FCT some weeks ago. At some particular places, Caramello is one of them, the Bank, and of course Ketchup, just to name a few of the places where raids have been happening. Now, basically what's been happening is some agencies have been going to these nightclubs and arresting every woman inside, with those who they say are soliciting for customers when it comes to commercial sex work. And then, of course, they're also picking up innocent bystanders, according to the protesters. So these women and many men's groups as well today staged the protest from the Eagle Square to the FCT authorities, and they were asking for several things. One, they're asking for justice because they're alleging that some of the women who were arrested were raped by security operatives, allegedly. And then, of course, they're saying that when these people were arrested at these nightclubs, they weren't read their rights. So there were no Miranda rights read. They just picked people arbitrarily, according to the protesters. And there's also the interesting fact that when these raids happened, the women were picked up, but there were no men arrested. And they're also bringing that up to the FCT minister, and they were asking for justice. Now, one of the representatives of the FCT administration was there at the gate to speak to the protesters, collected their petition, said it would be handed over to the authorities. But something very interesting happened at the FCT office. So he said that they had to look at it very categorically, that the FCT administration is doing what he calls sanitization of the FCT, at which point the protesters really basically lost their tempers. And that was exactly what happened. We're waiting for them to come back to the Eagle Square, and then we can find out exactly how they feel about that and what protests will be next.
All right, we would like to thank you, Kayla Megwell, for us there in Abuja on that march against rape and harassment of women in the capital. Well, let's move over now to the Imo State House of Assembly. They have suspended all the 27 elected local government council chairmen in the state over failure to honor an invitation to answer allegations of gross misconduct and misappropriation of funds leveled against them. The suspension follows a motion moved by a member representing Nkwere State constituency, Mr. Chika Madumere, who noted that the House had on several occasions directed the council chairman to appear before it in company of their treasurers, directors of administration and general services last month, but the chairman chose to appear alone, necessitating lawmakers to adjourn their appearance today to May the 9th, rather. That was yesterday. Well, lawmakers say the idea to summon the 27 local government chairmen came after a petition was sent to the House of Assembly alleging that the chairman appropriated funds without the approval of the councillors. The Anambra State Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Basio Ejidike, has lashed out at the ruling All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, as a failed party that will gradually lose its members to the opposition APC in the state. The chairman was speaking when the party leadership received a defecting APGA House of Assembly member, Mr. Ikem Uzoezie, at the state party secretariat in Oka. Well, reacting to that particular development, the special advisor to the governor on political matters, Mr. Ifatu Obiokoye, he maintained that APGA is neither losing sleep over the defection nor the claims by the APC state chairman. A coalition of northern youth groups asking the former governor of Gombe State, Senator Danjuma Magoje, to run for the office of the Senate presidency of the 9th National Assembly. The group is calling on the national leadership of the ruling All Progressives Congress to provide a level playing field for all contestants for the position rather than endorsing a particular candidate. And that's the show at this time. We'd like to thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. I'll see you soon.